Ray McKinney, do you remember VJ Day? You do remember, and that's a picture of Ray there. Pictures of Ray. Where were you on VJ Day? What did you do?
Anchored in the bay in Okinawa. We had loaded tanks on, we were ready to go in. And a couple days before, there was a false alarm over on the island. There was a lot of shooting. And then, since it was a false alarm, word come down for us that the first SOB shoot, fires a shot, get the court-martialed. So we got a pretty tame life.
So it was pretty tame where you were on VJ Day, and I believe that, I think that some of those Japanese pilots didn't get the message. And there was, there were celebrations on the island of Okinawa, and Japanese fighters came down and strafed some American bases there that night or the next day. So it was probably...
Where did gunfire come from? All I know is, well, I guess it was gunfire, but a lot of commotion on the island. We were out in the bay anchored, so we had no knowledge of what was going on.
So you didn't have a big party on the ship?
No.
Thank you, Ray. Bob, I know where you were because you were in Guam the whole war. So you were still in Guam when that's a picture of Bob there. You were in Guam on August 14th, 1945?
Yes, I was. But I don't remember any real celebration. I do remember I had to wait for another 8 months until I could go home. That was a real celebration.
So there was no party or anything in Guam either?
No, there was not.
Wow, this is a bummer. I thought we were going to get some, Vic DiCarlo. There's your picture. VJ Day, do you remember VJ Day at all? You mind standing?
I was on maneuvers. I was in demolition squad because we were going to Chinese your brother and switched it out. So we didn't have any celebrations.
Can you make something up? You spoke last time about your service in Europe. You were a demolition squad, and through combat. And I believe you ended the war in Czechoslovakia, the war in Europe, right?
Well, no, we ended up down in Austria.
Austria. Okay.
We liberated. We met the Russians in Austria. We liberated concentration camps.
And you were then in maneuvers training to go to the Pacific, because the European War ended May 8th. And so for that summer, you were preparing for a war in the Pacific.
That's correct.
Wow.
We didn't have any lax time at all.
Yeah, no break or anything like that. And you were going to go through the Suez Canal to the China-Burma Indie Theater.
Right.
Can I ask you, and I don't know if you can remember this, how did you feel about that? I mean, were you anticipating, oh gosh, I have to go through this again?
And no choice. I remember they not go, but no, we were a little disappointed because we couldn't solve it. But after the maneuvers were over, we made up for it.
You made up for it. All right. Well, thank you very much, Vic. I know. I asked a lot of you, Bob. How old are you, Bob?
94.
94. I haven't seen Bob in 2 years. You had moved to Durango, Colorado, and now you've moved back. And Bob, you told your story at our events before about ditching and being on a life raft in the Pacific Ocean for how many days?
3.5.
3.5 days. That was important. But I don't know where you were for VJ Day, for August 14th, 1945.
I don't remember correctly. I know we, after the war was declared over, we took a flight. Well, there were Navy patrols, and we went up, and he went on the Japanese mainland, saw there, which he did, and they started shooting at us. They didn't know the war was over, we didn't either. But nothing happened, but I'm not sure that was August 14th either. We didn't keep track of the days.
So there was no celebration you remember? You weren't kissed by a nurse in Times Square or anything like that? Thank you very much, Bob. Bob Buckler, we know what you did in Sweden when you were a tail gunner, correct? A tail gunner visa. That's right. Yeah. And if you remember Bob's story, you were ditched and you spent February to December 1944 in Sweden.
That's right.
That was a pretty sweet life.
We lived there in December of 44. The government brought us right back to the United States. Then they told us we broke international law. I take a refuge in my country.
Right.
Leaving them before the war was over.
Right.
I wonder if I could have sued the government for making me break international law.
You might have a case.
But I'm going to tell you where I was on VJ Day.
Yeah, tell me where you were, BJ Day.
When they brought us back to the United States, they told us we broke international law. We weren't allowed to leave the country again. And they stationed me close to Pittsburgh, which this law was so high. And they told me I had to be there on Mondays and I could leave on Fridays, so I come home every weekend. Well, the Sunday that the war was over in Japan, I was on the train on the way back to Columbus. The train was stopped in Stuttgart. It was mobbed. He couldn't move. We sat there for 2 hours. People walking up and down the aisles of the train, give us some drinks and stuff to eat. And I said, well, this is enough of this. I got off the train. I caught the next train back to Pittsburgh. We got to Pittsburgh that night after the next day.
So you sit out all night partying in the streets with these people. In that picture there. That's what Pittsburgh looked like on BJ Day.
You couldn't buy it.
You couldn't buy a drink. That's amazing. Bob, the other story that you had not shared before was you turned 20 years old in Sweden. Right? When you were, I don't know, not a POW, but you were an internee in Sweden. And if you remember his story, he was interned at a resort where the King of Sweden would come and, shake your hand. And you said you turned 20 years old. Tell me about that birthday.
Well, I had a friend that was inviting me down to her house for my birthday.
A friend?
We had a lot of friends.
Okay.
Well, anyway, the morning of my birthday, there was a knock on my bedroom door, and here she comes pushing the card in with my birthday cake on. My 20th birthday.
Wow. Is that that's a great story.
That's why I went to sue the government. They made me come home.
Come to think of it, you might not have a case. Oh, they made you come home from that. Thank you very much, Bob. These stories are so great. Tom Wiley, do you remember? Would you happen to remember? You were still flying missions after you were flying missions. You flew 35 missions or 50?
With the 15th Air Force out of Foggia, Italy.
Okay. And then you opted to keep flying transport.
Well, the wisdom was that if you went back to the States, you'd go into B-29s and into the Pacific. And I didn't want any part of that. And so I transferred over to the Mediterranean Allied Transport Service and started flying transport.
You started flying with the C-47s or?
C-47s, and the worst aircraft I ever flew, the C-46.
Okay. That was the worst aircraft.
The worst aircraft ever.
Okay.
Yeah. It had booster controls, and you would turn the wheel, and a little while later, the wings would move. And so there was such a lag that you never were really sure just where you were and what you were doing.
So how about first I ask you about VE Day, May 8th. Do you remember when the war was over in Europe? VE Day.
Right now, no.
It'll come to you on the way home. And then VJ Day in August 1945. Were you still in Italy in August 1945?
No, I think I was back in the States flying transports.
Okay, so you were back in the States, but you don't remember if there was a party or not?
I really don't.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. We have the brothers Goss, Calvin Goss and Warren Goss, and I will ask Calvin, do you remember VJ Day?
Yeah, I
Would you mind standing up?
Indian Town Gap up there in training. The rumor was we were going to go to Japan. Then when they dropped the big one, they sent me over to Europe for occupation. We were built the Kiwanis huts over there, and I was in charge of trucks bringing in material for the roadways. And then from there, I got on a boat and come home.
So you were anticipating going to the Pacific Theater to fight to end that war in Japan?
They were talking about Japan, and of course they dropped the big one, and everything changed.
Right. And by that time, your brother Warren had, I think, gotten home.
He was already home. Yeah.
Did he give you did he talk to you about what war is like, or did he give you any advice?
He didn't really give you any advice, I don't think, at that time, but he, yeah, because we were going both ways. We didn't leave, really, but it was a great experience, I think.
Being in the Army of Occupation in Europe?
Oh, yeah.
What was great about it?
Well, it just straightened me out. We were thinking, all these guys around, you meet new people. Then I never seen them after that. All these guys I was in service with.
Yeah.
And they went their ways and I went my ways, and that was it.
So you feel like you came home from that experience, kind of had broadened your outlook. You kind of had, knew more about the world and knew more about different kinds of people.
Oh yeah, I think it made a better guy out of me. Didn't it, Warren?
I can tell stories.
Yeah, that makes you a better man, I think.
Thank you so much, Calvin.
You can tell stories.
So Warren, I won't ask you what Calvin was like when he was a kid. But I will ask you, I know you have a memory of VJ Day.
Yes, I do.
You mind sharing it?
It's a funny thing, though. When the war ended in Europe, they couldn't get rid of me fast enough. They sent me home right away. The papers got to go fight the Japs. And I was home, I don't know, 2 weeks or something like that. Went back to camp, ready to go to France. I was going to go fight the Japs. And they dropped that bomb. Then they gave me a pass to go home right away. I figured they didn't know what to do with it, so I went back home. And when I got home, they must have knew something was up down there because the war wasn't over when I left camp. When I was at home, and then they announced the war was over, and I jumped in the old man's car, and I wanted to go up to church and give the Lord thanks that I at least made it. And then my sister jumped in the car. They wanted to go up there, and then Dorothy Dreyer, she jumped in the car, and Eula, she was in the car. And a whole carload went up to Memorial Boulevard, and I was headed up there, and they didn't want to go to church. They wanted to go to parties, And that's about all that happened. So I never did get to church. And went out with all these girls, and they were all related to me, that's what they did. And I remember there was a Coca-Cola truck or something. Truck was going down Monroe Boulevard, and we was blowing a horn, and the traffic was lined up. And they says, "How about a Coke?" And he threw us out a whole case. But that was my experience there. I was home.
So to say that you were relieved that you wouldn't have to go to the Pacific.
Was I relieved? I couldn't praise the Lord enough.
Wow.
that's good.
Thank you very much, Warren.